You know, sometimes the most powerful revolutions begin with the quietest voices. This is the story of Chen, a 24-year-old woman who worked in the shadows of San Francisco's most exclusive restaurant. And what happened one autumn evening? Well, it changed everything, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it all began. You can't be serious. The words cut through the kitchen like a knife. Manager Rachel Morrison stood there, her designer blazer perfectly pressed, her expression dripping with contempt. At her feet lay the shattered remains of an expensive porcelain plate, pieces scattered across the tile floor like fragments of someone's dignity. She dropped it herself. On purpose. Everyone in that kitchen knew it. The noise brought everything to a standstill. Cooks stopped mid-chop. Dishwashers froze with their hands in soapy water. All eyes turned to witness what was about to unfold. Chen held her serving tray steady, her dark eyes meeting Rachel's cold stare without flinching. "Clean up this mess," Rachel said slowly, deliberately, "and get back to the kitchen where you belong." She adjusted her blazer, shooting a knowing glance at the other servers, all of them white, all of them watching. "Table 7 is no place for people like you, people like you." Those 3 words hung in the air, heavy with everything Rachel didn't need to say out loud. Maya had worked at the Sterling House for 2 years. 2 years of washing dishes until her hands cracked and bled. 2 years of cleaning up after San Francisco's elite, serving their leftovers, scrubbing their tables after they left. 2 years of being invisible. But something about the way Rachel said those words, people like you, something about the calculated cruelty in her voice. It awakened something in Maya that she'd learned to bury deep since she was 16 years old. "With all due respect, Rachel," Maya replied, her voice calm, steady, almost eerily composed, "I was specifically assigned to this table by Mr. Harrison himself. Perhaps you should speak with him if you have concerns about that decision." Silence. The kind of silence that feels like the whole world is holding its breath. You could have heard a pin drop in that kitchen. Some of the younger staff exchanged nervous glances. The sous chef raised his eyebrows. Even the line cooks, who'd seen their share of kitchen drama, looked surprised. Because nobody talked back to Rachel Morrison. For the past 2 years, Maya had noticed things. Small things. The way Rachel always assigned her the worst shifts. The ones that ended at 3 in the morning or started at 5. The way tips mysteriously got redistributed before Maya could claim her share. The way Rachel always found something wrong with Maya's work, no matter how perfect it was. But tonight was different. Tonight, everything was about to change. You see Marcus Harrison, tech billionaire, philanthropist, owner of the Sterling House. He called that morning with a very specific request. "I need the server who talks with her hands," he'd said. Rachel had nearly choked on her coffee when she got that message. She had no idea what it meant. No clue whatsoever. But Maya knew, and what Rachel didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Maya carried a secret. Something about her past that would completely shatter everyone's assumptions about who she was and what she was capable of. "Fine," Rachel finally said, her voice dripping with venom. "But when you ruin the evening for the most important guests in this restaurant, don't say I didn't warn you." She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "And if a single detail goes wrong..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The threat hung in the air like poison. Maya nodded silently, but something in her eyes, a quiet determination, an unshakable resolve, made some of the more observant staff realize that this young woman was different, that she carried something special within her, a kind of serenity that only exists in people who have weathered far worse storms than this and lived to tell the tale. As Maya walked toward the dining room, her posture remained perfectly upright, dignified, strong. Rachel watched her go, a satisfied smirk on her face, completely unaware that she was about to witness something that would forever change her life. Because what Rachel Morrison didn't know, what she couldn't possibly imagine, was that this simple dishwasher held not just one secret, but years of experience fighting systems far more powerful than a petty restaurant manager. And she had one every single time. The main dining room of the Sterling house felt like stepping into another world. Crystal chandeliers cast warm, golden light across pristine white tablecloths. The floors were polished marble imported from Italy. Each table setting probably cost more than Maya made in a month. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, the San Francisco skyline glittered like scattered diamonds. Maya walked between the tables, her footsteps silent on the expensive carpet. She could feel eyes following her, some curious, some judgmental, all of them wondering what she was doing out here instead of in the kitchen where she belonged. Table 7 sat by the windows, the best view in the house. Marcus Harrison, 35 years old, looked exactly like what you expect from a Silicon Valley billionaire. Tailored suit that probably cost $5,000. A watch that could pay off student loans. That relaxed posture of someone who's never had to prove anything to anyone because his bank account does all the talking. Beside him sat his wife, Olivia, blonde and polished, her fingers flying across her phone screen, barely aware of her surroundings. But it was a third person at the table who immediately captured Maya's attention. Mrs. Eleanor Harrison, 78 years old, with silver hair pulled into an elegant bun. She wore a deep blue dress that spoke of quiet wealth, the kind of class that doesn't need to announce itself. There was something about the way she held herself, the slight tilt of her head, the way her eyes moved constantly, searching. Maya recognized it instantly. "Good evening, Mr. Harrison," Maya said in her most professional voice. "My name is Maya, and I'll be taking care of you this evening." Marcus smiled politely. Olivia didn't even look up. "We need the wine list immediately," Olivia muttered, still typing. "And bring the appetizers quickly. We have an appointment at 10. Maya nodded, but her eyes stayed on Mrs. Eleanor, who seemed completely disconnected from the conversation happening around her, isolated, alone, even though she was sitting right there at the table. It was painfully familiar, the deaf person being treated like furniture while others made decisions for them. "And for you, ma'am?" Maya asked, positioning herself directly in the elderly woman's line of sight. Mrs. Eleanor looked confused, glancing at Marcus. Marcus sighed, clearly impatient. She always has Chardonnay. No need to ask. And that's when Maya made the decision that would change everything. She stepped closer to Mrs. Eleanor, making sure she was directly in her field of vision. Then, with fluid, graceful movements, her hands began to speak. "Good evening, ma'am. It's truly a pleasure to meet you. What would you like to drink tonight?" She signed it in American Sign Language. Perfect, fluent, beautiful ASL. The effect was like lightning striking the table. Mrs. Eleanor's eyes went wide. Her hands trembled. And then the smile, a radiant, overwhelming smile that seemed to light up her entire face. Tears welled up in her eyes as her own hands rose, shaking slightly with emotion. You talk with your hands?" she signed back, her movements excited, almost frantic. "It's been so long. So incredibly long since anyone has spoken directly to me." Marcus dropped his napkin. His mouth fell open. Olivia's phone clattered onto the table. "Yes, ma'am." Maya signed back, her movements gentle, patient. "And I would absolutely love to know what you prefer to drink. We have an exceptional German Riesling tonight that pairs beautifully with our salmon." The conversation continued, a flowing, dancing exchange of hands and expressions. Mrs. Eleanor asked about menu options, made jokes about the food, laughed silently with her whole body. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she wasn't just present at the table. She was included. Marcus watched, transfixed. There were tears in his eyes now, too. "How did you—" he started, his voice thick with emotion. "How did you learn that?" Maya smiled softly, her hand still moving as she continued conversing with Mrs. Eleanor. "My younger sister was born deaf, sir," she said simply. "Sign language was my second language before I even learned to read." What she didn't mention was the rest of the story. How at 16, she became solely responsible for her sister when their parents died in a car accident. How she worked 3 jobs, sometimes 4, to pay for Lily's specialized school. How every single penny she earned at the Sterling house still went towards speech therapy sessions and educational materials. How her own dreams of college, of becoming a teacher, had been put on hold indefinitely to make sure Lily had every opportunity. How she'd been raising her sister alone for 8 years. 8 years of fighting, scraping, surviving. From the kitchen doorway, Rachel Morrison watched, her face contorted into something dark and ugly, surprise mixed with pure, seething anger. Seeing Maya receive attention, praise, recognition from the restaurant's most important family clearly struck a nerve. A very specific, very personal nerve. For the next hour, Maya didn't just serve the table. She transformed it. She translated jokes between Mrs. Eleanor and Marcus. She described ingredients in vivid visual detail, her hands painting pictures in the air. She made sure Mrs. Eleanor wasn't just included. She was centered, celebrated. "Grandmother is happier than I've seen her in months," Marcus said as Maya brought the main course. "Where do you normally work? I want to make absolutely sure you serve our table every time we come here." Maya hesitated. One wrong word could cost her everything. "Actually, sir, I normally work in the kitchen. This is my first evening serving tables." Marcus's expression changed immediately. Confusion, then anger. "You work in the kitchen? With that talent? Who made that decision?" Before Maya could answer, Rachel appeared beside the table like a storm cloud dressed in designer black. "Mr. Harrison," she said with a forced smile, "I hope everything has been perfect. Maya is still in training, so if there have been any issues—" "Actually," Marcus interrupted, his voice taking on a tone that could freeze water, "I'm extremely impressed. Maya has provided the best service we've ever received here. My grandmother is communicating directly with someone for the first time in months." Rachel's smile tightened. "How wonderful. I'm sure it was interesting." The way she said interesting made Maya's stomach clench. As the Harrison family finished their dessert, Rachel pulled Maya aside to a dimly lit corner. "My office. Midnight. Don't be late." Maya nodded calmly, but something in Rachel's eyes triggered a familiar alertness. It was the same expression she'd seen on the face of the social worker who tried to separate her and Lily all those years ago. The same look she recognized in people who saw strength as a threat. But Rachel made a crucial mistake that night. She assumed Maya was just another desperate employee. Someone with no resources, no connections, no options. What she didn't know was that when you force someone to become strong at 16, when you teach them to fight for every opportunity and protect the people they love at any cost, you're not dealing with an ordinary victim. You're dealing with a survivor, and survivors know how to fight. As Maya cleared the table, she maintained that same calm that had intrigued her co-workers. Because what Rachel couldn't imagine was that this problematic waitress held not just a secret of sign language, but 8 years of experience navigating hostile systems. 8 years of learning to document everything. 8 years of winning battles against people far more powerful than a restaurant manager. Every insult she was about to receive, every humiliation Rachel had planned, Maya would remember all of it, store it away, use it, because she'd learned something invaluable while raising Lily. Sometimes you have to let people completely underestimate you before showing them what you're really capable of. Rachel Morrison's office felt even smaller at midnight. Cold fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The metal desk was covered with employee evaluations and a coffee cup that had gone cold hours ago. The walls seemed to close in, making the small space feel almost suffocating. "Sit down," Rachel ordered without looking up from her papers. Maya remained standing. She'd seen this intimidation tactic before, in social service offices, in principals' offices, in countless meetings about Lily's education and care. She knew exactly what this was. "Listen carefully, Maya." Rachel finally looked up, her eyes cold and hard. "I've been managing this restaurant for 12 years. I know my place here. And more importantly, I know everyone else's place. She stood up, slowly circling the desk like a predator. People like you, she paused deliberately, letting the word sink in, need to understand that there are limits. Limits, ma'am. Maya asked, her voice controlled neutral. Don't play stupid. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Rachel moved closer. Yesterday, you were just another dishwasher. Today, by some stroke of luck, you managed to impress an important customer. But that doesn't change who you really are. What Rachel didn't know was that every single word was being carefully memorized. Maya had learned, through years of fighting hostile bureaucracies, that people like Rachel always revealed their true colors when they felt completely in control. Starting tomorrow, Rachel continued, you will return to the kitchen permanently. And to ensure there are no future misunderstandings about your place here, you will work the morning shift, 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., every single day, including weekends. It was a calculated punishment. Rachel knew the schedule would make it impossible for Maya to have any other job. It would trap her at the Sterling house with the lowest possible salary, ensuring she could barely survive, let alone save anything for Lily. I understand, Maya replied simply. The calmness clearly frustrated Rachel, who had expected tears. Begging. Desperation. You understand? That's it? You're not going to beg to keep waiting tables. No, ma'am. I appreciate the opportunity to work here. Rachel's eyes narrowed. Good. Then we won't have any problems. Maya turned toward the door. Oh, and Maya? Rachel's voice stopped her. Your special little sister. Lily, isn't it? Maya's hand froze on the doorknob. Specialized schools are expensive, Rachel continued, her voice dripping with venom. It would be such a shame if something affected your ability to pay for them. The threat hung in the air like poison. Maya stood there for a moment, her back still turned. When she spoke, her voice was perfectly calm. I understand perfectly, ma'am. Good night. She walked out, maintaining that same serene expression all the way to the employee locker room. Only when she was alone did she allow the anger to flash in her eyes. But it wasn't wild, impulsive anger. It was calculated fury. The kind of anger that comes with a plan. Maya pulled out her phone and opened a voice recording app. Report 1, she whispered softly. Thursday, 12:04 a.m. Rachel Morrison. Direct threats related to racial discrimination and blackmail involving my sister's disability. She saved the file, backed it up to 3 different cloud services, and added it to a folder labeled simply Evidence. What Rachel was completely unaware of was Maya's history. 8 years of fighting bureaucratic systems teaches you to document everything. Every suspicious conversation, every discriminatory comment, every unfairly applied policy, everything. Maya had folders full of documentation. Screenshots of schedules showing how only employees of color received the worst shifts. Witness statements from other staff members. Recordings of Rachel's casual racist comments during staff meetings. For 2 years, Maya had been quietly, methodically building a case. Because she'd learned something crucial while caring for Lily. The system only changes when you force it to change. And you can only force change when you have evidence. The next morning, Maya arrived at 5 a.m. for her new punitive schedule. The San Francisco dawn was still gray and cold. The streets were empty except for delivery trucks and the occasional taxi. Maya's breath misted in the air as she approached the employee entrance. And that's when she saw it. A black Tesla parked right in front of the restaurant. Marcus Harrison stepped out, still wearing what looked like yesterday's suit. He looked tired, but his eyes were alert, determined. Maya, I'm glad I caught you. Mr. Harrison? Maya glanced at her watch. Is everything all right? I need to start work in a few minutes. Work? Marcus frowned. You're not serving tables today? No, sir. I've been permanently reassigned to the kitchen. Why? Your performance last night was exceptional. My grandmother hasn't stopped talking about you. She wants you to serve our table every time we visit. Maya hesitated. One wrong word, and if Rachel found out, but something in Marcus's eyes, genuine concern, honest confusion, made her decide to take a risk. Mr. Harrison, may I be completely honest with you? Please. I would love to continue serving your table and your grandmother. Last night was special for me, too. But certain people in this establishment have very specific opinions about where people like me should be. Marcus studied her face carefully. Are we talking about discrimination? We're talking about internal politics that I need to respect if I want to keep my job, sir. The diplomatic answer told Marcus everything he needed to know. I see. He was quiet for a moment, thinking, Maya, I'd like to make you an offer. Would you be interested in working directly for my family? We host regular events, dinners, gatherings where we need someone who can communicate with my grandmother. The pay would be, he paused, substantially better than your current position. Maya's heart raced. This was exactly the kind of opportunity Rachel was trying to prevent her from having. That would be amazing, sir. But I would need to give 2 weeks' notice here. Of course. Professional to the end. Marcus pulled out his wallet and handed her a business card. And Maya, if anyone tries to sabotage your departure or create problems during those 2 weeks, I want you to call me immediately. That's my personal number. As Marcus drove away, Maya looked at the card in her hands. She smiled for the first time in months. Rachel had made a fatal mistake. She'd assumed Maya was just another desperate employee with no connections, no resources, no way out. What the racist manager couldn't have imagined was that this simple dishwasher had spent 8 years learning that intelligence and documentation always beat arrogance and prejudice. And now, with a powerful ally and years of documented evidence, Maya finally had everything she needed. That afternoon, while washing dishes during her punitive shift, Maya mentally organized her strategy. The kitchen was hot and loud. Steam rose from industrial dishwashers. Cooks shouted orders. Plates clattered. But in her mind, Maya was somewhere else entirely. She was planning every recorded conversation, every witness to racist comments, every discriminatory policy. Everything would be used at the right moment. Rachel glanced through the kitchen window occasionally, clearly satisfied to see Maya back in her place. What she couldn't see was a determined gleam in Maya's eyes, the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. Because when you teach someone to fight unjust systems from the age of 16, when you force them to become a strategist to protect the people they love, you're not creating a victim. You're forging a warrior. And Rachel was about to discover that she had completely underestimated the wrong woman. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Lily. How is work? Are you okay? Maya smiled and typed back. Better than okay. Everything's about to change. Love you, little sister. Maya's second week of notice was ending when Marcus Harrison walked into the Sterling house for an unscheduled meeting. Rachel adjusted her blazer nervously. Unscheduled visits from major investors were never good news. Mr. Harrison. She greeted him with her most professional smile. What a wonderful surprise. How can I help you today? Actually, Rachel, I came specifically to talk about Maya Chen. Marcus's tone was neutral, but something in his eyes made Rachel's stomach clench. Ah, yes, Maya. Rachel forced a smile. A suitable employee, although she has had some discipline issues recently. Discipline issues? Marcus raised an eyebrow. Can you give me specific examples? Well, she broke protocols. She acted outside her position. You understand, people like her sometimes need to be reminded about boundaries and hierarchy. The phrase hung in the air. People like her. Marcus made a mental note. Interesting. And what exactly was a protocol she broke? Rachel realized she was walking into dangerous territory, but her arrogance wouldn't let her back down. She communicated directly with your grandmother, without permission. Employees at her level should not interact with VIP clients without proper supervision. I see. Marcus's voice remained calm, but it turned to ice. So you punish an employee for providing excellent customer service. I reassigned her to a position more suited to her qualifications. At that moment, Maya appeared, carrying a tray from the kitchen. "Maya," Rachel called out. "Come here, please." Maya approached calmly. Marcus noticed something different in her eyes, a serene confidence that hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. "Mr. Harrison would like to discuss your transition to your new position," Rachel said, clearly expecting Maya to confirm the official story. "Of course," Maya replied. She pulled her phone from her pocket. "Actually, Mr. Harrison, I have carefully documented our entire conversation about this transition. It might be useful in clearing up any misunderstandings." Rachel's face went pale. "Documented? What do you mean by that?" Maya tapped her phone screen. Rachel's voice echoed through the speaker, crystal clear. "People like you need to understand that there are limits. Your special little sister, Lily, isn't it? It would be such a shame if something affected your ability to pay for them." The silence that followed was deafening. Rachel stared at the phone as if it were a venomous snake. "There's more," Maya continued, her voice perfectly calm. 3 weeks of similar comments. Discriminatory schedules applied only to employees of color. Multiple witnesses to your questionable management practices. Marcus studied Rachel, who was now breathing heavily. "Rachel, do you have anything to say about these accusations?" She's taking everything out of context. She's a disgruntled employee trying to frame me." Rachel stammered, her professional composure completely shattered. "Context." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Let's hear the full context then." She played another recording. "I've been managing this restaurant for 12 years. I know my place, and more importantly, I know everyone else's place. People like you need to understand that there are limits." Marcus turned to Rachel with an expression she had never seen before, controlled fury. "Rachel, as a principal investor in this establishment, I am officially terminating our partnership. You have until the end of the day to clear out your office." "You can't do that." Rachel exploded. "Because of this... Go on," Marcus challenged. "Finish that sentence." In front of witnesses. Rachel realized the trap and snapped her mouth shut. But it was too late. Every word, every glance, every reaction was being observed by employees who had suffered years of her abuse. Maya calmly put away her phone. "Mr. Harrison, I believe our conversation about the new position can continue in a more professional setting." Marcus nodded. "Certainly. Rachel, my attorney will be in touch regarding the legal aspects of this situation. I recommend you consult yours." As they walked out, leaving Rachel trembling in her own restaurant, Marcus turned to Maya. "How long have you been planning this?" Maya smiled softly. 8 years, sir. Ever since I learned that documenting injustices is the only way to ensure they have consequences." Rachel Morrison stood alone in her restaurant. Well, it wasn't a restaurant anymore, watching through the window as Marcus and Maya talked outside. For the first time in her career, she had completely underestimated someone, not just an employee, a strategist who had turned every humiliation into evidence, every abuse into ammunition. Her phone rang. It was a restaurant owner who had just received a very interesting call from Marcus Harrison about documented discriminatory practices and possible lawsuits. Rachel's hands shook as she answered. Meanwhile, outside, Maya finally allowed herself to smile. Not out of cruelty, out of justice. Long overdue justice. Because when you teach someone to be strong from the age of 16, when you force them to become a strategist to survive, you're not creating a victim. You're forging someone capable of turning every injustice into fuel for their own rise. Rachel had underestimated a woman who carried 8 years of experience fighting unjust systems and winning. The real question now wasn't whether Rachel would survive this professionally. It was whether she would ever be able to look in a mirror without remembering the moment when a simple dishwasher proved that intelligence and preparation always beat arrogance and prejudice. 6 months later. The grand ballroom of the Harrison Center glowed under golden lights. Maya Chen, now Director of Community Outreach for the Harrison Family Foundation, adjusted the microphone on the main stage. She was preparing to present the sign language training program she had developed from scratch. Behind her, a massive screen displayed the program's logo, hands forming a heart. "Ladies and gentlemen," she signed as she spoke, her hands moving gracefully. "Today we celebrate not just inclusion, but proof that when we give people real opportunities, they always exceed our expectations." In the front row, Mrs. Eleanor Harrison applauded enthusiastically, her eyes shining with tears of joy. Beside her, Marcus smiled proudly. The program had already trained over 200 employees at hotels and restaurants across the city, transforming the experience of deaf guests throughout San Francisco. "My sister Lily," Maya continued, "always told me that our differences aren't our limitations. They're our superpowers." And she was right. In the audience, Lily, now a graphic design student at a prestigious university, thanks to the scholarship Marcus had created specifically for her, waved with tears streaming down her face. The applause was thunderous. Meanwhile, 15 blocks away, Rachel Morrison watched a live stream on her cracked phone screen in her studio apartment. After losing her job at the Sterling House, she discovered that the recording of her discriminatory statements had gone viral on social media. No restaurant or hospitality company in San Francisco wanted to associate their name with the racial scandal she'd created. Her applications were rejected one after another. Just last week, a position in Sacramento fell through after a simple Google search revealed dozens of articles about the racist manager of the Sterling House. Back at the gala, a former Sterling House employee took the stage. "Maya taught me that dignity isn't something other people can give us or take away." He signed and spoke simultaneously. "It's something we carry within us, regardless of how we're treated." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Here was a woman who had been systematically humiliated and diminished, now leading a cultural revolution that would affect thousands of lives. Marcus stood, initiating a standing ovation that lasted nearly 3 minutes. Rachel turned off her phone in anger, but the reality was inescapable. Maya hadn't just weathered the storm. She had become the storm. While Rachel languished in irrelevance and regret, her former employee was building a legacy that the entire industry celebrated. True justice, Maya concluded her speech, her voice strong and clear, isn't about destroying those who hurt us. It's about building something so beautiful, so powerful, that it makes it impossible to ignore our humanity. It's about transforming our pain into the fuel of our greatness. The final applause echoed through the hall and across thousands of phone screens where people watched live. Rachel had tried to break Maya through prejudice and arrogance, but she created the exact opposite. A leader who would forever change how the industry treats marginalized people. 2 years later, when Rachel finally found work as a hostess at a small cafe in Oakland, she occasionally saw news stories about the awards Maya was receiving. The program had expanded to over 50 companies. Maya was regularly invited to speak at universities about leadership, justice, and social change. There were talks of a book deal, a documentary, a nationwide initiative. Rachel would see these updates and feel something twist in her chest. Regret? Anger? Shame? Maybe all three. The lesson was crystal clear. When you try to destroy someone out of pure prejudice, you're not just revealing your own smallness. You're providing that person with all the motivation they need to become everything you could never be. You know what the most powerful part of the story is? It's not the revenge. It's not even the justice. It's the transformation. Maya didn't let bitterness consume her. She didn't become cruel like Rachel. She didn't use her newfound power to hurt others. Instead, she built something beautiful. Something that would outlast every insult, every humiliation, every moment of prejudice she'd ever faced. She built a legacy, and that's the real victory, isn't it? Not defeating your enemies, but building a world where they become irrelevant in the face of the greatness you choose to create. Maya Chen started as a dishwasher, invisible, dismissed, underestimated. But she refused to stay small in a world that wanted to shrink her. She documented. She prepared. She waited for the right moment. And when that moment came, she didn't just survive. She thrived. Today, somewhere in San Francisco, Maya is proud at another event, teaching another group of people sign language, changing another life. And Rachel? Well, Rachel is learning what happens when you mistake someone's kindness for weakness, when you confuse someone's patience for powerlessness. She's learning that the people you underestimate are often the ones who change the world. This story isn't just about one woman's triumph. It's about every person who's ever been told they don't belong. Every person who's been dismissed because of their race, their background, their circumstances. It's about the quiet strength that grows in people who have no choice but to be strong. It's about the revolution that begins when someone who's been invisible finally steps into the light. And it's a reminder to all of us that we should never, ever underestimate the power of a person who has something to fight for, because that person might just change everything. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think, if it reminded you that dignity and intelligence will always triumph over prejudice and hate, then share it. Let it reach someone who needs to hear today. Because somewhere out there, there's another Maya, another person being underestimated, dismissed, counted out, and they need to know that their day is coming. Their moment is coming. And when it does, the whole world will have no choice but to watch them rise. Please like this story, share it, and subscribe to this channel for more. Thank you for watching.